Today we will go through the whole flow of designing a Kanban board, a commonly used view, especially in task management apps where you put cards into columns to indicate the status of the process, for example, to do, in progress, and done. First, let's take a look at what we're going to build today. We're going to design a Kanban board view with all the columns and cards, and in addition to that, we will have some controls for the Kanban board, like the new task, filter, sort, some settings, and search. When it comes to a column, we will need to build a header with two buttons, the name and the pill, then use auto layout to space out the header and all the cards and create this colorful background. In addition, we'll learn how to prototype the horizontal scroll, just in case we have more columns than we can show on the screen at once. Let's start. In the description, you can find a link to the exact file that I'm working on right now, so you can follow along and take all the steps with me. Here I've prepared for us a blank frame with some navigation elements from a generic task management tool. We have the menu, the board name, search, share button, notifications, and the user avatar. And the first thing that we need to do to start creating our Kanban board is to create the header for the column. So this element here where we have a title, the bubble, and two icons. Let's start with taking our text tool and typing in to do. And now we need to style this text. Let's go with 16 and Satoshi bold with 24 line height. And let's change the color of this text. Let's sample the color from our existing text that is on the screen. It's this dark purple. And let's create the text color for our library so that we can reuse it. Let's go with text primary, create variable, and let's create a text style as well. Let's go with column header and create style. And the next thing that we need to do is to create a bubble to indicate how many cards we have in our column. Let's drag and copy this text. So let's press Option Shift and drag to copy. And let's change it to a number. Let's say 8. And I would like to detach the text style because I need to adjust it. Let's go with 14. And we can go with 18 pixels line height. Let's zoom in and create our frame so that we can apply the background. Frame selection. Then let's go with fill and paste this blue color. I would like to also add auto layout to space the elements evenly. Let's go with 6 pixels horizontal padding. For vertical padding, I think we can leave it at 0 for now. And for the border radius, let's go with something extremely high, like 999, to just make sure that we have rounded corners. And the last thing to do here is to change the color of the text to probably white. And we have our bubble ready. Let's rename it to bubble. And now let's select both of those elements, frame them, and apply auto layout so that we can space them 6 pixels apart. And also we want them to be aligned horizontally. The next thing that we need to do is to add the plus icon and the menu icon. So let's go to our phosphor icons. Phosphor icons is a library that you can use. Those are free icons. I really like them. We'll go with the outline version and regular. And let's go with plus. Select it, copy the SVG and go back to Figma, paste it. And let's come back to our phosphor icons. Let's go with menu. Select the dots 3 vertical, copy SVG, back to Figma, deselect the item that you've just pasted, paste it next to it. We need to change the size of those icons, so let's lock the proportions and type in 20. And I also would like to use the same color that we used for our text, so we can resample this color and save it as icon color. Create variable. We want to space those icons 8 pixels apart, and we need to frame the selection. We can either right-click frame selection, or you can use the shortcut. Click auto layout and space them 8 pixels apart. And to bring the whole header together, we need to select both of our frames, so the title frame and the icons frame, create another frame, and add auto layout as well. And what we want to do here is to align left center, because we want our text to always be in the center of our icons. And we want to space the elements out automatically. It means that if we were to change the size of our frame, the icons will always stay on the right and the frame on the left will always stay to the left. If you've been enjoying this video so far, you can subscribe to my channel. I publish new videos every week about building your portfolio, working with Figma, and getting hired as a UX designer. Now let's focus on creating a column. And the first thing that we need to do is add some cards. And I'm using the cards that we've created in the previous video where we worked on our responsive UI card. I will link it in the description, or you can just use simple rectangles to imitate the cards, just in case you don't have the time to work on the card, and then come back to it later on. So let's delete it. Let's go to our card component, and I will just copy one of those. I think that we'll be using the cards without the image for this particular case, so I can remove the image and then work with the remaining elements. So what I would like to do here is to move this header a little bit to the top and copy the card around 8 times because this is the number that we have in our header. And as you can see, we will go outside of our frame, but don't worry about it for now. And when you're preparing designs like this, it's really good practice to add some variety to your components so it doesn't look like there's just a repetition of the same card. So for example, you can remove some pills or change the titles, or maybe remove some of the avatars. You can also change the dates, etc. And right now we will not be wasting time on this. I will just copy the cards that I prepared previously, and you can definitely take a look at them and just use the same ones for your design. So I will select all of them, press Command C for copy and Command V for paste, and we have the cards ready. I will remove those repetitive copies so that we have clear space here. And also I will change the number here to 5 because that was our initial idea. And right now we have our 5 cards here. Let's move them to the column. And what we need to do here is to create a group from all of those cards, space them out, and then create yet another frame to create a column. So let's start with selecting all of the cards, frame selection, add auto layout, choose the vertical auto layout. I think with 6 pixels apart, it will look good. And now we have this frame with all the cards, and then we have our header. And again, let's create a frame out of that, and this will be our final frame for our column. Let's style our column. Let's add auto layout, and it will also be the vertical auto layout. And right now we are defining this section here, so the distance between the header and our cards. Let's set it up to 16. And let's add our background color. So let's add fill. Let's go with our blue, so the same one that we used for the pill. Let's just go with 15% opacity, so we have a little bit of a lighter shade. The next thing that I want to do is to add horizontal padding of 12 pixels, left and right, and vertical padding of 16 pixels, so it will be at the top and at the very bottom of our card. You can also see that right now we have sharp corners. I would like to change it to 15 pixels. The next thing that I would like to do here is to make it so that if we were to change the size of our column slightly, all the components within it will also adjust the width. Let's do Command Z. And how we need to do it is to set the width of our card to fixed. And let's go with 324, that's fine. And all the elements within it need to be set to fill container. So let's start with our group of cards. It has to go with fill container. But that's not enough. If we were to resize the column right now, the cards would still stay the same, just the frame got resized. So let's go with Command Z and select all of the cards that we can see here, and also go with fill container. And right now, if we were to resize the column, the cards will follow. Also, what we need to do is to do the same setting for our header. And I would love to add a little bit of padding on the left so that the to-do is not on the edge like this. There is a little bit more space there. I need to use individual padding because I just want to add it to the left. And let's go with 8 pixels. And right now it looks a little bit more proportional. And the last element missing for our column is the new task button that we see here. So let's try to create it. We need the plus icon, so I'll just copy it from here and just paste it outside of our frame, so we are no longer in the column. Let's click on T for the text tool and go with new task. And the style that we're looking for is Satoshi Medium 14. Let's create the new text style for buttons. Create style, and also we need to apply the primary color. Let's select both of the elements, click auto layout, and as you can see, the new frame was created. So let's go with new task button, and let's change the horizontal spacing to 8 pixels. We also need a little bit of padding, so let's go with 8 pixels left and right, and 4 pixels top and bottom, so that it is a button actually. The last thing to do is to add it to our column. So let's Command X, cut it, and let's select the column and Command V, and it will be pasted at the very bottom of our column. Let me move it a little bit so you can see it better. And as you can see, it was just pasted at the bottom. To make sure that we are in the center, make sure that in auto layout for the whole column, you have selected the top center align. If we were to select top left, we would have a problem with our button here. So just make sure that this setting is on. I will move our column a little bit to the bottom. We will work on the final placement in a second, but I would love to show you one thing. Right now, you can see that the content overflows from our main frame. And to avoid seeing that, you need to click on the frame and select clip content. And right now, everything that is outside of the borders of our frame will be just clipped. We will not see it, but we will not lose those elements. If I were to move this column slightly to the top, you can still see that the elements are there. Now it's time to duplicate the columns. So I will press Option Shift and just drag this to-do column, maybe twice. So we have in progress and done to start with. And let's take a look at our example. Let's go with in progress and this yellow background color. We need to change it for the whole column here and also for the bubble. and we have 100% opacity. Let's remove 3 of the cards and let's change the number here to 2. Of course, you can change the content of the cards as well here. I will just keep them as they are just for the sake of time, but you can of course do it for your final prototype. And the second column will be done. So let's go with the green color. Let's copy the green and let's paste it for the fill of our column and also for our bubble. And let's take a look how many cards we have here. We have 8 cards. So let's change the number to 8. And now I would like to select all of the columns, frame selection, and add auto layout. It will be horizontal auto layout and space them 16 pixels apart. And on left and right, I would like to add 24 pixels padding. And let's move the columns to the left of the screen and slightly higher. And there's one more functionality that we're missing here. So adding a new column, I would like to reuse the new task button. So let me select it, Command C, and then select the whole frame, Command V. So it will be pasted basically as if it was a new column. And it feels a little bit out of place here. I would like to align it with the icons here. So what I need to do is to add top padding, and I don't want to add it directly to the button, so we will not deforming the button. I would like to put it inside of yet another frame, add auto layout, go to individual padding, top padding of 14 pixels. And where it comes from is that we have the column here with 16 pixels padding, but inside of this frame here, we can still see that the text is a little bit taller, so it dictates the height of this frame. And here we have 2 extra pixels, so it will be 2 plus 16, so 18. Here we have the button with 4 pixels top and bottom, so it's 18 minus 4, it will be 14 pixels. It is a little bit convoluted, but at least we achieved what we wanted. And let's change it to new column. And now that we have those elements ready, let's add extra 2 columns, the in review and deprecated, so that we can prototype the horizontal scrolling. In review will be purple. So let's duplicate, let's say the to do column, Command D will be duplicate. Let's select this one, paste the color that we just copied, and also change our bubble. Oh, and we also need to change the titles. So in progress, in review, or review, and done. For in review, let's remove 2 cards. So we have 3 cards total. Also, let's go with copying the in progress column, removing 1 of the cards. So we have our deprecated column, and it will be just 1 card. And let's just quickly copy our deprecated column color and paste it here and paste it for the bubble. Because we have auto layout applied to the frame, we can move elements around using arrows. So if I were to select this column, deprecated, and I want to move it all the way to the right, I press the arrow right and arrow right again. And now we have our order ready to be prototyped. So what you need to do is to select our frame and go to the prototype window. And here you can see 2 settings, the position, so how it scrolls, scroll with parent is fine, and overflow. And I would like to change it to horizontal for now. And if we were to select the whole thing and go to our prototyping window, you would expect that it will scroll already, but it doesn't scroll. It just stays in the place because we are missing one thing. If we were to select it again, you can see that there is this little warning icon. And it says that the content needs to be bigger than the frame. And right now, the size of our frame, so the blue frame that you can see here, is the same as the content size. So all the columns are wrapped inside of it. And I would like to change the size of the frame so it's smaller than the content. And I would like to align it with the edge of our total mockup here. And now when we go to prototype, you can see that it's basically scrolling horizontally. And you can see all the columns and the new column action button. And you probably remember that we've added the padding to the left and to the right of 24 pixels, and it seems to work well here. But if we go all the way to the right, it just loses the padding because we've changed the size of the frame. So what we need to do is add a little bit of padding here to the new column just to fix it. Let's go to Kanban view. Let's move this frame slightly in our prototype so that we can see the rest of the content. And in new column, let's add 24 to the right. And let's put the whole frame in place again. So let's align to the left of our mockup, go to prototype, and now you can see that we have a little bit more spacing here. Now let's come back to our file and let's add some buttons to our Kanban board just to finish the whole thing. So as you can see here, we have the full bar here with new task, filter, sort, and then search and some contextual menu. Let's create those buttons first. And what I want to do is to create buttons that are similar to the button that we already have here. I'll start with clicking T and typing in new task. We also need this plus icon that we have here, so I'll just copy, paste, and drag outside of our frame. And we need to select both of the elements, click on Auto Layout, and space them 4 pixels apart. And this will be our primary button, so we need to have our primary color for the background. I will add fill and sample the color from our In Review tab, because it will be our primary color as well. And as you can see, we need to change the color of the text, of course, to white, so that we have correct contrast and we see everything that's going on in the button. And now let's add 8 pixels top and bottom padding. Let's round corners to something extremely high, so that we have totally rounded corners. And we need to add left and right padding. And horizontal padding for buttons with icons, I prefer to not have the same padding left and right. Let me show you why. Let's apply 16 pixels left and right. And as you can see now, when you zoom out a little bit, it looks like there is more padding on the left than on the right. It just works like this with icons, so it's better to split the padding values and go with 12, for example, for left padding. And now when you zoom out, it looks more proportional. Another button that we need will be the grayish button. So let's start with filter. And of course, we'll need a filter icon. So let's go to phosphor icon and let's go with panel simple. Let's deselect the text, paste the icon, change the size to 20, apply the icon color, and be careful to apply it to selection colors. So it actually applies to the icon that is inside of it, to the vector shape that is inside of the frame, not the whole frame. Because if you were to apply this color to the whole frame, it will just color the whole rectangle. So the selection color, and let's go with icon. And for the text color also, let's go with icon and the style of button. Select both of the elements, auto layout, exactly the same thing, space them out 4 pixels apart, 8 top and bottom, 12 on the left, 16 on the right corners. And we need to sample the background color from the button here. Let's move those buttons a little bit more to the left so we have more space here and they're closer to their final location. Let's copy this filter button because we need sorting as well. Select the button, click Option, Shift, and then drag to copy. Change to sort. And of course we need icon. Let's go with arrows up and down. Copy it, go to Figma, paste inside of the button, change the size to 20 and change the color to our icon color. I want to move this icon to the left, so I select the icon, press arrow left, and remove the filter icon. Let me move the columns a little bit to the bottom so that we have a little bit more space here. And now what I want to do is to apply auto layout to space those buttons apart. And I want to space filter and sort a little bit closer, so I will apply 1 frame here, add auto layout and go with 8 pixels apart, so they are looking a little bit more like a group. And I want to have a little bit more spacing between new task and those 2 buttons, so let's add another frame, auto layout, and let's go with 16. Because I want to add a little bit more space around this new task button. It's a primary button, it needs a little bit more of its own space here. And we're missing the search icon and the menu icon from here. And we actually have them on the screen already. It will be the search icon that you can see here. So I'll copy it, paste it, and go here. And also one of the menu icons, same thing. Let's change this search icon to 20 pixels and change its color to our icon color as well. And what I would like to do is to copy one of those secondary buttons, paste them here, and let's see what happens if I were to delete text and keep only an icon. Of course, it's not proportional, but it's more or less what we're looking for. Let's try to change the left and right padding to 8 as well and see what happens. As you can see here, we have 36 pixels width and 36 pixels height, and this is exactly what we're looking for, the round button. Let's just change the icon. So let's cut our search icon, paste it inside of the button, remove the icon that we don't need, copy this button again, Command X for cutting the menu icon, paste, and remove the search icon. And I want to space those 2 buttons 8 pixels apart, so I frame selection, auto layout, and 8 pixels here. And let's move them a little bit to the right. And the last thing to do is to create a bar and space those elements within this bar equally. So let's select our group on the right and our group on the left. Again, frame selection, and it will be our top bar. Let's add auto layout, 24 pixels left and right. And if we were to align to the left, you can see that the button is as far away from the edge as the column is, and this is what we're looking for. And let's add some vertical padding of 16 pixels as well. And I want to apply the auto setting to this frame so that if we were to change the size here, the elements will still stay on the edges. And let's go with the width of our mockup. And let's space the elements a little bit closer together so that we have this bar touching the bar, and also with our column so that it's spaced 0 pixels below the bar that we have, because we already have some padding here. If we're ready with our design, let's take a last look at how it looks like in the prototype window. You can see that we have our column still moving, but the top bar is set in place. There is no scrolling applied here. And it's done! Thank you for joining me today. Here I've selected some other videos that you might like. Let me know in the comments how your Kanban board turned out, and you can also like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.